Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to Otram's YouTube channel. Today we are going to change the upper control arms on this 2017 Toyota Land Cruiser. This one's got SPC control arms on it right now, and we're going to switch it to Dobinson's, but it's the same process as if you had the factory ones. And we're starting up top on the passenger side. Like here you can see the oil dipstick, and I can't get you a really great view, but if you follow this hose down, there's a bracket or a clip that it hooks to. Oh, that's handy. Somebody's already broken this one. So there's no latch. So we can push these two hoses out of it. And then a little bit more forward, there is another set of hoses. And we're going to use a hook pick to open up the latch on those. So we can pop those out of their holder. Because when we push the upper control arm bolt, it's a really long bolt, and we need these loose of the inside of the body so that we can slide the bolt past them to get the control arm out. Luckily on the driver's side, you don't have to mess with any of that. You may have to remove your battery depending on how your battery sits. And then further back, if you follow the ABS wire up, and I can't get it in camera, but it's kind of right under the air intake. You want to unhook the ABS wire from the body side of the harness. Otherwise, when you undo the knuckle, there's a chance that it'll pull the ABS wire. We don't want that because they're very fragile. So let me move you back down below and we'll get started on pulling the actual control arm. So now that we're underneath the truck, we can start taking these cover panels off. I'm just going to take a pocket screwdriver and pop these clips. You can tell somebody's already been in here because it's an assortment of clips. And this truck's been fluid filmed, so everything is extra gooey under here. And then I'm going to take the cotter pin out of the ball joint nut. There we go. And then I'm going to take these brackets that hold the ABS wire onto the upper control. I'm going to take those loose. And these will look slightly different on the factory control arms, but basically same idea. And there's another one over here on the side of the, come on. Whew! Somebody put the one on the side of the strut tower super tight. And there we go. And now we can fish this wire loose because we don't want, when we pop the ball joint stud off and this swings, we don't want it to put any tension on this wire because it can break the filaments inside. So now we're safe there, and we can take this nut off to get the ball joint loose. And that's a 22. At least for the SPCs. And I'm going to take that most of the way loose, but I'm going to leave a little bit of thread engagement. And then you can either use a ball joint nut and an air hammer on here, you could use a pickle fork, but the easiest way there we go, is to just give it a couple sharp whacks with a hammer. And I left that nut on so that this wouldn't completely pop out and let everything fling. So now we can just gently rock the knuckle back out of our way, kind of wipe up some of the grease that's been spewing out of these. SPCs have the crappiest ball joints known to man. And then there's a nut back here on the back of the control arm, and we're going to loosen that up. Somebody was like just really into tightening things on this. I don't know why, but on every one of these upper control arms, Toyota put a brake line just right in the way. There we go. Just needed a longer ratchet because somebody put a lot of Loctite on this. There we go. And then you'll see there's a washer sliding over here. It's going to want to run into the body right here, and it'll kind of act like a stop. So you want to make sure you hold that washer down against the control arm itself while you fish this bolt out. And then this is where I'm hitting all of the hoses that we unclipped from up top. So you've got to like fish that washer down and then walk the bolt past all these hoses. And this is one of Toyota's stupider designs. I kind of feel like after the 80 series, they just gave up on making anything serviceable. There we go. Control arm is out. And it came with its own washers. And the instructions don't specify which way the dish goes. So I'm going to put it with the dish going away from the bushing to give it more flex. Because if I put it this way, it just looks wrong. So I'm going to take the factory washer off of there, and I'm going to put the new washer up, and then this also, it's labeled on the inside right hand, so we know which one's which. And I'm going to work my bolt in there, and then get everything up here. Come on. And a lot of times it helps if you just wiggle the control arm around as you're trying to fish all this through, because all these hoses up here are going to try to hold that bolt. And get stuck under the bolt head. Like, I don't know why Toyota couldn't have fed the bolt from the other direction. Come on. There we go. And now we have the bolt through. Put another washer on the other side. We can put our factory nut back on. We're just going to put that on there loosely for now. And then we can feed that back in there. And loosely put that in. And then we're going to tighten up the ball joint nut to 64 foot-pounds according to Dobinson's directions. If you're doing a different control arm or factory control arms, you'll want to check the specific torque that they want. And a little bit more for the hole to line up. There we go. And then I'm going to feed this cotter pin from the back so that when I bend it down, it's going away from me and I don't get hooked on it. There we go. And then these have a dust cap with an O-ring in them. It just kind of shoves down in there. It doesn't feel super secure. So there's those. And now we're all done here. And we can start feeding our wiring back up. And we're going to use the Dobinson supplied hardware. Here, I'm going to put the washer underneath. I'm going to put the bracket on. And then their little lock nut. I'm going to leave that loose for just a second while I start the bolt for the bracket back here, just to make sure everything lays properly. And I can snug this one up. There we go. And now we tighten this one on top of the control arm. Which is just a not great design. The factory has a little hole that keepers this bracket so that it can't spin. And most of the aftermarket control arms do the same. This doesn't have anything. And then I'm going to reach in there because I can actually reach it from down here and plug that in so I don't forget. It never fails when I'm doing upper control arms. I forget to plug these back in, and then I go to start the vehicle and I get ABS codes because I forgot to plug those in. The big long bolts aren't going to get tightened until we've got weight back on the tires because these aren't free-floating bushings. And if I tighten the bolts with it like this, as soon as I put weight on it and the radius, or not the radius arms, as soon as I put weight on it and the control arms come up, it'll tear the bushings on the inside here. So this needs to be down on the ground before these bolts get tightened. So I'm going to leave that be for now. I'm going to go do the other side. And then once this is down on the ground, I'll bring you back to torque that, put the panels back in. Okay, so now that we've got the weight back on the suspension, we can tighten that upper control arm bolt up to 96 foot-pounds, according to Dobinson's directions. And most of the time, you can just tighten it by, spinning the back nut. But watch the front of the bolt head to make sure it's not spinning, because every now and then you've got to put a backup wrench on it. And this is a super tedious process because you only get like one bolt click or one ratchet click. There we go. Almost. Come on. I want you to beep again. There we go. So there's 96 foot-pounds. And I'm going to flex the brake line back where it came from. And on the other side, there's a bunch of like emissions lines that sit right here that are kind of a pain. But there's our control arm all in. I'm going to put this back up in the air to make it easier to put all the splash panels back on. You could do them like this, but I'm lazy. I'm going to put it in the air. While it is on the ground, I'm going to torque all the wheels. Definitely torque them. Don't just rattle gun them tight. Torque them. And then after you've driven for a while, recheck the torque on everything. I'm going to clip everything back into its harnesses up top where we took the hoses loose. We got to click those back in and then drop this off for alignment, and it'll be all set. So hopefully you found that useful. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in.